Commander Marava stood on the observation deck of Station Unity, her hands pressed against the cold, slightly fogged glass. Outside, floating in the endless black, was humanity's newest gift from the galaxy, a mountain of broken metal, dead circuits, and shattered dreams. The Zenta Concord had called it a gesture of goodwill. Mara called it an insult wrapped in rust. For weeks, alien cargo tugs had dumped load after load of space junk into Earth's lower orbital zone. Old reactor casings, cracked sensor arrays, shattered drones, HULL plates riddled with micrometeorite holes. It all tumbled together like a graveyard of forgotten machines. The Concorde claimed it was safe, non-hazardous surplus. In truth, it was the garbage they didn't want orbiting their pristine homeworlds. Earth had only made contact with the wider galaxy 5 years ago. Humanity had been stunned to learn they weren't alone. Even more shocking was how little the galaxy thought of them. The Zenta Concord made up of ancient, long-lived species like the crystalline Lorthi and the methane-breathing Vraka saw humans as loud, emotional, inefficient, and dangerously unpredictable. They'd been granted provisional observer status, which meant they could watch galactic meetings but couldn't vote, trade advanced tech, or even dock at major ports without special permits. And now this, 1 billion tons of scrap, dropped like leftovers at a feast. Mara turned from the window. Her uniform was clean but worn at the cuffs, her dark hair pulled into a tight bun. She'd spent 20 years in Earth's Space Defense Force, flying patrol routes along the lunar rim, hunting smugglers, and rescuing stranded satellites. She'd never seen real war. None of them had. But she knew humiliation when she saw it. Her comm beeped softly. "Commander?" "Dr. Tran's here," said the voice of Ensign Reyes. "Send him in," she replied. The door hissed open, and a young man stepped through, his lab coat stained with grease and synth coffee. Dr. Eli Tran was only 28, but he already had 3 doctorates and a reputation for seeing patterns where others saw junk. He carried a datapad, its screen flickering with schematics. "You're not going to believe this," he said, breathless. Mara raised an eyebrow. "Try me." Eli tapped the pad. A 3D image bloomed in the air between them, a twisted metal shard, glowing faintly at its core. "We pulled this from the 3rd debris cluster. At first, I thought it was a power conduit from a Vorlag freighter. But the atomic resonance, it doesn't match." "Not even close," Mara frowned. "Vorlag? Those are banned under Concorde safety codes." "Exactly," Eli said, eyes bright. "Which means this isn't Vorlag. It's older. Much older. I ran it through every database we have, including the Smuggler Black archives. The only match? Fragments recovered near the Ghost Nebula. The ones rumored to be from the Vorathi." Mara went very still. The Vorathi weren't just ancient. They were myth. A warlike species said to have built weapons that could crack stars. They'd vanished 10,000 years ago, leaving behind ruins and warnings carved into dead moons. The Concorde treated any Vorathi tech as forbidden, too dangerous, too unstable. If the Concorde knew they'd dumped Vorathi material in our orbit, Mara began. "They don't know," Eli cut in. "Or they wouldn't care. To them, it's just more trash. But to us," he paused, then met her gaze. "This core fragment still has a residual energy signature. Weak, but active. If we can stabilize it, we might be able to use it as a power source. Or better, a weapon." Mara looked back out the window at the floating junkyard. Most of her officers wanted to break it all down for raw materials. Recycle the metal, sell the salvage, move on. It was the sensible thing, the safe thing. But safe hadn't gotten humanity into the stars. And safe certainly wouldn't earn them respect. She turned back to Eli. "How many people on your team can keep a secret?" "All of them," he said without hesitation. They're tired of being the galaxy's janitors, too. Mara walked to her desk and activated the secure channel. Within minutes, she'd assembled a small group. Chief Engineer Rivas, who'd rebuilt 3 orbital stations with nothing but spare parts and duct tape. Lieutenant Cho, a pilot with reflexes faster than a combat AI. And Dr. Amara, a materials scientist who once turned lunar dust into bulletproof glass in a weekend dot in a sealed bay deep inside Station Unity. Away from prying Concorde sensor drones, they laid out the Vorathi fragment on a reinforced table. It pulsed with a soft blue light, like a dying heartbeat. "We're not supposed to do this," Rivas muttered, arms crossed. "If the Concorde finds out, they'll quarantine Earth." "And if we do nothing?" Mara asked. "They'll keep treating us like children who need supervision. Like we can't be trusted with a screwdriver, let alone a starship." Cho leaned forward. "What are you thinking, Commander?" Mara looked at the scrap outside, then at the glowing shard before her. "They gave us scrap metal," she said slowly. "So let's build something they'll never forget." The room fell silent. Then Eli grinned. "We'll need more than this fragment. But if we strip compatible systems from the junk power converters, thruster nozzles, shield emitters, we can start assembling a skeleton. It won't look like any ship in the registry, but it might just fly. And fight," Cho added. "And win," Mara finished. "Over the next few weeks." Under the guise of routine debris cataloging, the team began selecting pieces from the scrap field. They chose hull plates thick enough to withstand plasma fire, even if they were bent. They salvaged AI cores from dead maintenance bots and rewrote their code from scratch. They found a half-melted fusion coil that, with enough patching, could output twice its original rating if it didn't explode first. The Concorde overseers barely noticed. To them, humans were still playing with toys. But in the shadows of Station Unity, something new was being born. One night, Mara stood alone in the dry dock, staring at the growing framework of what would become their ship. It was ugly, lumpy, asymmetrical, patched with mismatched metal from a dozen alien species. Wires snaked across its frame like veins. It looked less like a warship and more like a metal storm given shape. Yet it had a heart. And soon it would have teeth. A message flashed on her wristcom. It was from Earth Command. The Concorde had just filed a formal complaint. They claimed humans were hoarding restricted materials and demanded immediate inspection of all debris processing operations. Mara didn't reply. Instead, she walked to the main console and typed a single order into the secure log. Project at Ternim. Proceed to Phase 2. Outside. The stars burned cold and distant. But in that quiet dock, filled with the hum of jury-rigged generators and the whispers of dreamers, humanity took its first real step, not toward survival, but toward sovereignty. They had been given nothing but scrap. Now, they would build a legend. The news spread faster than anyone expected. A Concorde surveillance drone, small, silent, shaped like a silver tear, had drifted too close to Station Unity's hidden dry dock. It didn't see much, but it saw enough. Humans welding alien hull plates together, feeding energy into a strange blue core, and running combat simulations on black market neural rigs. Within hours, the Zenter Concorde sent an official notice. Not a request, a demand. Cease all unauthorized construction activity immediately. Surrender all non-standard components for inspection. Failure to comply will result in sanctions under Galactic Treaty 47D. Commander Maravas read the message on her screen and didn't flinch. She'd expected this. What she hadn't expected was how fast the Concorde would act. 2 days later, Earth's off-world supply lines went dark. No more medicine shipments from the Lorthi Medical Guild. No more fusion pellets from Vraca refineries. Even the basic COM satellites that linked Earth to Mars and the Belt colonies began to fail as Concorde-controlled maintenance drones refused service. On the surface, cities didn't panic, but they felt it. Hospitals rationed antibiotics. Power grids flickered. Food synthesizers ran out of key nutrient blocks. People whispered in lines for water. Why won't they just stop building that ship? But in orbit, the work never slowed. Inside the growing skeleton of the vessel, still nameless. Still raw humans worked in shifts around the clock. Dr. Eli Tran hadn't slept in 36 hours. His eyes were bloodshot, his fingers stained with conductive gel. He stood on a floating platform, directing a team as they slotted a cracked Vorathi energy inverter into the ship's spine. "This thing could blow us all to atoms," muttered Chief Engineer Rivas, floating beside him. Arms crossed. "It won't," Eli said, not looking up. "Not if we sink it to the human-made dampeners. The Vorathi tech is wild, but it listens to the right voice." "And you're the voice?" Rivas asked dryly. "I'm the translator," Eli corrected. "The ship isn't just alien. It's becoming something new. Part Vorathi. Part human. Part hope." Below them, Lieutenant Cho ran drills in the half-built cockpit. The controls weren't smooth like Concorde ships. They were rough, tactile, built from repurposed mining rig joysticks and flight sticks salvaged from old Earth fighters. To Concorde pilots, who used thought-linked neural crowns, it would feel primitive. But Cho loved it. "It's got soul," she'd told Mara once. "It fights like a person, not a machine." Mara floated through the main corridor, checking progress. The walls were lined with patchwork armor, some plates from a junked Lorthi scout, others from a derelict freighter that had crashed near Jupiter. Nothing matched. Everything worked. She stopped at the reactor chamber. The core glowed softly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Around it, Dr. Amara had woven a lattice of nanofibers grown from recycled polymer waste. "It's holding," Amara said without looking up. "Barely. One surge over 98% output, and the whole matrix cracks." "We won't ask it for 99%, Mara said. "Not unless we have to." Back on Earth, the pressure mounted. The World Assembly summoned Mara via hologram. Faces from every nation stared at her, tired and afraid. "Commander," said the Secretary General. Voice shrank. "The Concorde is threatening to cut off all interstellar communication. We'll be isolated, alone." Mara met their eyes through the projection. "We've been alone since day one," she said quietly. "The Concorde never saw us as equals. They saw us as pets that might bite. But this ship, it's not about biting. It's about standing tall." One delegate raised a hand. "And if it fails? If the Concorde sends warships?" "Then we'll meet them," Mara said. "Not with fear, with fire." The Assembly voted. Not unanimously, but enough. Earth would not surrender the project. Humanity would finish what it started. That night, in a secret data burst, rebel groups from 3 oppressed systems sent coded messages. One read, "We watch. We hope." Another, "Your scrap is our symbol." They'd seen the news. They'd seen humans defy the Concorde. And for the first time in centuries, others began to believe the galaxy could change. But defiance had a cost. One morning, a small transport ship tried to dock at Station Unity with emergency medical supplies from a neutral colony. Before it could enter orbit, a Concorde patrol ship intercepted it. On open channel, Envoy Krell himself appeared, tall, smooth-skinned, eyes like polished obsidian. "Human vessel," he said, voice cold as vacuum. "You are in violation of sanctions. Turn back or be destroyed." The transport's captain, a woman named Rias, no relation to the ensign, refused. "These are children's medicines," she said. The Concorde ship fired a single warning shot. It wasn't aimed at the transport. It was aimed at Earth's nearest orbital hospital module. The explosion was silent in space, but on every screen in Station Unity, people watched the wing of the hospital vanish in fire and debris. No one died. The module had been evacuated, but the message was clear. Mara watched the replay 3 times. Then she walked to the ship's core chamber and placed a hand on the warm metal. "We're running out of time," she said. Eli joined her. "We can launch in 6 days. Maybe 5 if we skip final diagnostics." "That's suicide," Riva said when he heard. "Staying here is slower suicide," Mara replied. She called the crew together in the unfinished mess hall, just a room with bolted-down benches and a single flickering light. There were 23 of them now. Engineers, pilots, medics, even a botanist who'd volunteered to grow oxygen-scrubbing moss in the air vents. "You don't have to stay," Mara told them. "If you leave now, the Concorde might forgive you. You'll be safe." No one moved. Cho spoke first. "I didn't sign up to be safe. I signed up to matter." Rivas grunted. "My grandkids are down there. If this ship can protect them, I'll weld the last plate with my bare hands." One by one, they pledged to stay. Even the botanist. Work doubled. They skipped sleep, ate nutrient paste at their stations, sang old Earth songs while soldering plasma conduits. They weren't just building a ship anymore. They were building a promise. On the 5th day, they powered up the main systems for the first time. Lights flickered to life red, then steady white. The gravity plates hummed. The reactor stabilized at 87% output. And in the cockpit, Cho gripped the controls as the ship's AI cobbled together from a dozen broken units and named Janus. For its two-faced learning spoke its first words. Systems nominal. Ready to fly. Mara stood on the bridge, looking out through the forward viewport. The scrap field still floated around them, but now it felt different. Not a junkyard. A cradle. That evening, Eli approached her with a new idea. "The mining lasers," he said. "We've got 6 of them. Weak, short range. But if we focus their beams through the Varathi crystal lenses we found, we could punch through light shielding." "How far?" Mara asked. "Not far, but close enough to make them think twice." She nodded. "Do it." As the crew worked through the night, attaching the jury-rigged weapons to the hull, Mara sent a final message not to the Concorde, but to every human settlement in the system. It was simple. Hold on. Help is coming. Outside, the stars watched in silence. The Concorde believed order came from control, efficiency, predictability. They have forgotten the oldest truth in the universe, that sometimes the most dangerous thing in existence isn't a weapon or a warship. It's an idea. And in the dark, among the ruins of their shame, humans had forged one that would not die. The ship still had no name, but it didn't need one yet. Names came after deeds. And soon, very soon, it would have plenty. The Concorde fleet arrived without warning. 6 crystalline dreadnoughts, each longer than Mount Everest was tall, slid out of warp space like ghosts. Their hulls shimmered with energy shields, smooth and perfect, untouched by time or battle. They formed a ring around Earth's orbit, silent and absolute. This was not a threat. It was an ending. High Envoy Krell's face appeared on every screen in Station Unity. His voice was calm, almost pitying. "Humanity has broken galactic law. Your vessel will be dismantled. Your leaders will answer for this act of aggression. Surrender now, and your species will be spared further shame." Commander Maravas stood on the bridge of the ship that still had no name. Around her, the crew worked in focused silence. No one panicked. They'd known this day would come. They built for it. "Launch sequence," Mara said. Lieutenant Cho's hands moved over the rough-hewn controls. Thrusters online. Reactor at 92%. Shields. Weak but holding. The ship shuddered as magnetic clamps released. It drifted out of the hidden dock, turning slowly to face the enemy. Outside, the Concorde ships didn't react at first. They simply watched. To them, this was a joke, a patchwork toy floating toward giants. But then the ship fired its engines blue-white. Plasma flared from mismatched thrusters. Some salvaged from cargo haulers, others rebuilt from fighter wrecks. The ship lurched forward, not with grace, but with raw power. It looked clumsy, ugly, dangerous. Krell's voice returned, sharper now. Return to dock. This is your final warning. Mara did not reply. Instead, she opened a ship-wide channel. All hands, this is it. Remember why we're here. Not for glory. For every child down there who deserves a future. For every dream they tried to scrap. Then she gave the order. Janus, activate weapon systems. The ship's eye hummed. Mining lasers mounted on jury-rigged turrets powered up. They were never meant for war. But now, focused through cracked Vorathi crystals, they became something new. The first shot lanced out not at the biggest ship, but at the smallest. A scout vessel, hovering near the front. The beam struck its shield. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shield flickered and collapsed. The laser punched through the hull, melting a clean hole through its core. Silence. Then chaos. The Concorde fleet scattered. Their perfect formation broken. Alarms blared across their networks. How? Their shields were rated against plasma cannons, not scrap lasers. Mara didn't wait. Eli now. Deep in the ship's belly, Dr. Eli Tran slammed his fist on a console. Resonance matrix engaged. The 6 mining lasers fired again, but this time, their beams sensed. They didn't just hit one ship. They danced between them, bouncing off reflective panels the humans had welded onto drifting debris. The Concorde ships used to clean, direct attacks. Had no defense against a weapon that used the battlefield itself as a tool. One dreadnought veered hard to avoid a beam and flew straight into a cloud of old satellite fragments. Its shield overloaded. Hull plates tore open. Atmosphere vented into space. Still, the Concorde adapted. Their warships turned, weapons glowing with stored antimatter. They fired. Bolts of violet energy shrieked toward the human ship. The shields, woven from recycled drone parts and powered by the unstable core, flared red, then orange, then white. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Shields at 40%. Rivas yelled from engineering. They won't hold another hit. Mara didn't flinch. Cho, remember the asteroid belt near Luna? Cho grinned. Oh, I remember. She yanked the controls hard left. The ship banked sharply, engines screaming, and dove toward the debris field left over from old mining operations. The Concorde ships followed, but their sleek designs weren't made for tight turns among jagged rocks. The human ship wove through the field like a bird through trees. Concorde shots missed, slamming into asteroids. Exploding rock into glittering shrapnel. Then Mara gave the next order. Release the decoys. From hidden bays, a dozen broken drones, painted to look like escape pods, shot out in different directions, broadcasting fake life signs. The Concorde sensors locked on. 2 dreadnoughts split off to intercept them. Now the human ship was facing only 4. Janus. Mara said, "Give me everything on the forward laser. Overload the crystal if you have to." "Aye, Commander," the eye replied in its calm, double-toned voice. "Crystal integrity at risk." "Proceed?" "Proceed." The main mining laser, mounted on the ship's nose, glowed hotter than ever before. The Vorathi crystal inside cracked with a sound like breaking ice, but it held. The beam that shot out was blinding white, thick as a tree trunk. It struck the lead dreadnought head-on. The ship's shield didn't just fail. It shattered. The beam carved through the hull, slicing the dreadnought in half. Metal groaned. Energy exploded outward. The two halves drifted apart, dead. On the bridge, no one cheered. They were too busy breathing. But across Earth, in cities darkened by sanctions, people watched the battle on smuggled feeds. They saw their ship built from trash, flown by neighbors, stand against gods of war. And they dared to hope the remaining Concorde ships regrouped. Krell's voice returned, but it was tight now. Angry. You fight like animals. Without honor. Mara finally spoke. Her voice was calm, broadcast on all open channels. Honor doesn't feed children. It doesn't heal the sick. You gave us nothing but scraps and called us weak for using them. We're not animals. We're survivors. And we won't bow. She cut the channel. The Concorde attacked again. This time in formation. Tight beams of energy crisscrossed space, trying to trap the human ship. But Mara had one last trick. Rivas, she said. Remember that broken fusion coil we couldn't fix? Aye, Rivas replied, already guessing. It's still in Bay 4, unstable as hell. Good, Mara said. Launch it on a collision course with their center ship. Set it to blow in 60 seconds. The coil, wrapped in magnetic tape and duct sealed shut, shot out like a bomb. The Concorde ships saw it coming, but they didn't know it was a trap. They moved to intercept, shields up. Too late. The coil exploded not with fire, but with a pulse of raw magnetic energy. It didn't destroy anything, but it scrambled every electronic system in range. Shields flickered out. Weapons went dark. Navigation failed. For 10 precious seconds, the Concorde fleet was blind. Now, Cho. Mara yelled. The human ship shot forward like a bullet. Lasers fired at point-blank range. 2 more dreadnoughts took critical hits. One spun out of control, crashing into another. Fire bloomed in the void. Only one Concorde ship remained. It turned and fled, jumping to warp before the humans could finish it. Silence returned to Earth's orbit. The human ship floated among the wreckage, engines idling, hull scorched, shields gone. Smoke curled from 3 places. The Vorathi crystal in the main laser was now a web of cracks, glowing faintly, but it was alive. Inside, the crew slumped in their seats, exhausted, shaking. Cho wiped sweat from her brow. Rivas checked the reactor still holding, barely. Eli stared at his screen, tears in his eyes. Mara stood slowly. She walked to the main viewport and looked out at the ruins of the Concorde fleet. Then she turned to her crew. You did it, she said. All of you. But she knew this wasn't over. The Concorde would not accept defeat. Not from humans. Not from scrap. Still, for the first time, they had proven something. The humanity was not to be ignored. Not to be discarded. As Earth's people cheered below. As rebel messages flooded in from across the galaxy, the ship drifted. Battered but proud. It still had no name. But soon, the galaxy would know what to call it. The Scrap Sovereign. The Ghost of Vorathi. The ship that shouldn't be. And soon, the deadliest warship in the galaxy. But all that came later. For now, they had won one battle. And that was enough to change everything. The victory was sweet, but it didn't last long. Within days, messages poured in from every corner of the known galaxy. Rebel groups on frozen moons sent coded thanks. Enslaved workers in asteroid mines whispered the ship's name like a prayer. Even neutral trader species who never took sides began slipping data chips to Earth couriers, filled with star charts, weapon schematics, and warnings. But with admiration came danger. Deep in the Concorde's central archives, hidden behind shields older than human civilization, High Envoy Krell met with the Silent Council, the true rulers of the Zenter Concorde. They were not soldiers or diplomats. They were thinkers, planners, and believers in order above all. To them, Humanity wasn't just a nuisance. It was a disease. The scrap vessel must be erased, said Elder Vex, her voice like dry stone. Not just destroyed, forgotten. Krell bowed his head. The fleet we sent was our best. They were humiliated. Then we used them all, Vex said. A chill ran through the chamber. Even Krell hesitated. The Silent Maw is forbidden. It hasn't been armed in 8,000 years. And for good reason, Vex replied. It does not conquer. It erases. One activation, and Earth will not just fall, it will vanish from memory. No ruins, no records. As if it never existed. Krell said nothing. He knew the legends. The Silent Maw was a planet-killing dreadnought, built during the Varathi Wars. It had been buried inside the gravity well of a dead neutron star, sealed away by treaty. Now, the Concord was willing to break that treaty to silence one species down on Earth. No one knew this yet. But Commander Maravus felt it in her bones. The silence from the Concord was too perfect. No demands. No threats. Just waiting. On the ship still unnamed, but now called Adernum, in hushed voices among the crew, repairs were underway. The Vorathi crystal in the main laser was beyond repair. Dr. Eli Tran had sealed it in a containment unit, hoping to study it later. The hull had been patched with spare plating, and the reactor was running on borrowed time. We got maybe one more fight in her, Chief Engineer Rivas said, wiping grease from his face. After that, the core goes critical. Not oops, we're dead critical. Blow up the moon critical. Mara nodded. She'd known this since the battle. The Aeternum wasn't built to last. It was built to matter. Lieutenant Cho floated into the command deck, holding a data chip. This just came in, she said. From a smuggler near the Ghost Nebula. He says it's about the Concord's last weapon. Mara took the chip and slotted it into the console. A shaky hologram appeared. A massive spiked warship, half buried in glowing dust near a pulsar. Text scrolled below. Silent Maw. Do not engage. Flee if sighted. Eli's eyes widened. That's not just a ship. That's a myth. It's real, Cho said. And they're waking it up. Mara stared at the image. The Maw was 10 times the size of the Aeternum. Its hull was made of dead star metal, said to absorb energy weapons like a sponge. Its main weapon could collapse a planet's core in minutes. She turned to her crew. We can't beat it in a fight. Then we don't fight it, Eli said slowly. We steal it. Everyone stared at him. You're joking, Rivas said. No, Eli replied, excitement rising. Hear me out. The Maw is ancient. Its systems run on old Varathi code similar to what's in our core. If we can get close enough, Janus might be able to talk to it. Hack it. Take control. It's buried in a neutron star's gravity well, Cho pointed out. We'd be torn apart before we got within 1,000,000 clicks. Not if we used the Aeternum singularity drive, Eli said. We've never tested it at full power, but if we sync it with the reactor's overload mode, we could punch a short warp tunnel right next to the Maw. That's suicide, Rivas said again. Mara looked at each of them. She saw fear, yes, but also fire. They'd come this far. They weren't turning back now. Earth can't survive the Maw, she said. Running won't save us. Hiding won't save us. But if we control it, the Concord loses its last weapon. And maybe, just maybe, we end this war before it burns the whole galaxy. No one argued. Preparations began at once. Janus ran millions of simulations. Eli and Dr. Amara rewired the singularity drive to accept a manual override. Cho mapped a path through the pulsar's magnetic storms. Rivas reinforced the hull with every spare plate they had, even stripping the crew quarters for armor down on Earth. The World Assembly was told only this. We're going on one last mission. If we don't return, tell our story." Families said goodbye in quiet messages. Children drew pictures of the ship and left them on public screens. Across the planet, people lit candles, not for the dead, but for the brave Dot. The day came. The Aeternum floated in high orbit, scarred but ready. Its engines glowed faintly. Inside, the crew wore patched flight suits, helmets at their sides. Mara sat in the command chair. "Janus, plot course for the Ghost Nebula. Maximum stealth." "Aye, Commander," the AI replied. "Singularity drive primed. Warning, survival probability is 3.7%. Mara smiled faintly. "Better odds than we started with." The ship jumped, spaced, light bent. For 10 terrifying seconds, the Aeternum didn't exist in normal reality. Then it dropped out near the pulsar right beside the silent maw. The dreadnought loomed like a mountain of teeth. Black, silent, radiating cold power. Concorde drones swarmed around it, finishing the final activation sequence. "They're powering it up," Cho said, fingers flying over her console. "We have minutes. Then we move fast," Mara said. "Rivas, keep the engines hot. Eli, get ready to link Janus to the Maw's core. Cho, fly us in like we own the place." The Aeternum shot forward, dodging drone fire. Its shields flared and died within seconds, but the hull held. They slammed into the Maw's outer docking bay, a violent, crunching impact that shook the whole ship. Eli, Cho, and 2 engineers suited up and moved through the airlock. Inside the Maw, darkness reigned. Ancient lights flickered to life as they stepped onto metal floors older than language. The air was stale, thick with dust and time. "We're being scanned," Eli whispered into his comm. "Janus is talking to the ship's mind. It's confused. It remembers the Varathi, but it's listening." Back on the Aeternum, alarms blared. Concorde ships had arrived, dozens of them, forming a wall of steel and fire. "They're here," Rivas yelled. "We can't hold them off." Mara gripped the controls. "Then we give them something to fear." She powered up every weapon the Aeternum had left, even the broken laser. She flew straight at the Concorde fleet, not to fight, but to distract. Lasers flashed. Missiles exploded. The Aeternum danced like a dying star, drawing every enemy eye. Inside the maw, Eli reached the core chamber. A massive sphere of black metal floated in the center, humming with power. He plugged Janus's data spike into the access port. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the maw woke up. Lights blazed across its hull. Engines roared to life. The Concorde fleet froze. On the Aeternum, Mara saw it happen. The maw turned not toward Earth, but toward the Concorde ships. "It's ours." Eli's voice crackled over the comm, breathless with triumph. "We did it." But Mara saw the truth. The Aeternum's reactor was deep in the red. Overload warning flashed on every screen. She had seconds left. She opened a channel to Earth. "One last message. You gave us scrap metal," she said, voice steady. "We forged something greater. Tell them we didn't run. We rose." Then she aimed the Aeternum straight at the Maw's core and pushed the reactor past its limit. Light swallowed everything, but from the heart of the explosion, the silent Maw emerged, no longer silent, and in its shadow, humanity's legend was born. The light faded, not with a bang, but with a side dot where the Aeternum had been. There was only swirling energy gold and blue, like liquid starlight. The silent maw floated in the center of it, its black hull now glowing with veins of soft light, as if it had just taken its first breath in 10,000 years. Inside the maw's command chamber, Elytran floated in zero gravity, his hand still on the core interface. His eyes were wide, not with fear, but wonder. It's alive, he whispered. Not just a machine. It remembers. It chooses. Janus's voice echoed through the chamber, not from a speaker, but from the walls themselves. The Vorathi did not build weapons to destroy, the AI said, its tone deeper now, layered with something ancient. They built them to protect what was worth saving. On the bridge of the maw, Marava stood alone. She had survived the blast not by luck, but because the maw had pulled her in at the last second, wrapping her in a field of folded space. Her uniform was torn, her face streaked with soot, but her eyes were sharp. Outside, the Concorde fleet hung motionless. Their weapons were powered down. Their shields were open. High Envoy Krell appeared on the main viewer, not in anger, but in stunned silence. Behind him, the Silent Council watched, their faces unreadable. Mara spoke first. You came to erase us, but you gave us the one thing you couldn't control. What is that? Krell asked, voice low. Hope, Mara said. And a ship that listens. She didn't threaten. She didn't gloat. She simply activated the Maw's comms and broadcast a single message across every channel. In every known language, Earth stands. Not as your enemy. Not as your subject. As your equal. Then she powered down the Maw's weapons. The galaxy held its breath. For 3 days, nothing happened. No attacks. No demands. Just silence. Then, from the heart of Concorde space, a single ship approached, not a warship, but a diplomatic barge, flying white flags of truce. The Concorde had surrendered, not because they were beaten, but because they finally understood humanity could not be contained. Not with laws, not with scraps, not even with fear. Back on Earth, people cried in the streets, not from sadness, but from relief. Children ran through parks shouting the names of the crew. Statues were planned, not of generals or kings, but of engineers, pilots, and dreamers who turned junk into justice. But Mara refused all honors. When the World Assembly offered her a seat on the new Galactic Council, she shook her head. I'm a shipbuilder, she said, not a politician. Instead, she returned to orbit, to the place where it all began. The scrap field was still there, but now it was different. No longer a dumping ground. Now it was a school. Alien ships, Lorthi, Vraka, even former Concorde observers docked at Station Unity, not to inspect, but to learn. Young engineers from a dozen species watched as human teachers showed them how to weld mismatched metals, how to coax life from dead tech, how to build not for perfection, but for purpose. A young Lorthi student once asked Eli, "Why do you use broken things?" Eli smiled. Because broken things still have stories. And sometimes, the best things are made from pieces that refuse to stay down. Months passed. The Silent Maw, now renamed Aeternum's Echo, stood guard over the solar system, not as a weapon, but as a symbol. It never fired a shot again. It didn't need to dot deep in a quiet bay on Luna's far side. A new ship began to take shape. Smaller than the Aeternum, but just as bold. Its frame was made from melted-down Concorde sanction drones and salvaged hospital modules. Its core? A piece of the original Vorathi shard, now stable, now calm. Dr. Amara called it the Bloom. It's not for war, she told Cho, who had taken command of the project. It's for reaching out, for showing others they don't need permission to build. Cho ran a hand over the smooth hull. Then let's make it beautiful. And they did, years later. When new species joined the galactic community, species once crushed under the Concorde's rule, they didn't bring gifts of gold or rare minerals. They brought scrap, a bent antenna from a rebel outpost, a cracked solar panel from a refugee ship, a child's toy, fused by plasma fire. And they asked, "Can you help us build something from this?" Humanity always said yes, because they had learned the greatest truth of all, that strength isn't in what you're given. It's in what you make from it. The galaxy had once laughed at humans for building a warship from trash. Now, they watched in awe as humanity taught them how to build futures from fragments. And in the quiet dark between stars, the legend lived not in monuments, but in every ship that rose from ruin, every voice that dared to say, "We are more than what they called us." Earth never sought to rule the galaxy. It only asked to belong. And in the end, by forging not just a ship, but a new way to live, humanity didn't just earn a seat at the table. It built a better table for everyone.